Since the mid-1970s, many parts of Ontario have had two-tier local governance structures, upper regional councils and more local-focused lower tiers, each with different responsibilities. The provincial government recently launched a review to see whether realignments, amalgamations, or something else might be in order. Here with their perspectives on that, let's introduce Bonnie Crombie, the Mayor of Mississauga, Marianne Mead Ward, the Mayor of Burlington, and Tom Marakis, who is the Mayor of Aurora. Good to have you three around this table, and I got to say, big-time props for fighting this weather to get here today, because I know you all had long drives to get here, so...
We're troopers.
Thank you very much, indeed. Regional governments, as we have suggested, have been around for a very long time. In the main, have they worked? Let's go in order of population. Mayor Crombie.
Have regional governments worked? They may have fulfilled a purpose in the beginning, but certainly Mississauga is in a unique position right now. We're combined with a municipality of 70,000 people, a growing city of about 600,000 and chain, and a large, mature, aging city of 44 years. Mississauga population almost 800,000. So I would argue the three cities are at different stages of their growth and their development. They have distinct identities, and it doesn't always work. There are other options that I hope we can consider. Which
we will get into. So that's the story from Peel Region, according to the Mayor of Mississauga. What's the story in Halton Region, according to the Mayor of Burlington?
We're working great. We are a very efficient level of government, and in Burlington, we're especially efficient. We are a 7-member council, which is the smallest council of any municipality our size, and
you're about 120,000?
184,000.
Excuse me. Oh boy, am I out of date? 184,000. Okay, sorry.
As of the last sentence, that's what's on our signs now. So
okay.
That's where I know. But yeah, we're very efficient. We're the 4th highest councillor to constituent ratio. We're after Mississauga, which is 1 to 65,000, I think. Brampton is 1 to 59,000. Vaughan is in that neighborhood, and we're 1 to 30,000. That's the highest of any municipality our size. So Burlington is already working extremely well. And in fact, in the last election, we had the opposite conversation where our constituents were saying, we think we need more council members. You know, should 4 people be determining the fate of 184,000 people? I'm not sure we're going to have that conversation anytime soon about increasing council.
I'm not sure you're going to get that through this particular provincial government.
You know, it's working well, but just to put a finer point on it, one of my first jobs as mayor was to assign people to boards and commissions and standing committees, and there are 63 of those in Burlington and Halton Region. And so we have 9 other duties in addition to the things that we do as a councillor, or in my case, as a mayor.
We will dive into more of this as we go along. What's the story up in York Region from the perspective of the town of Aurora?
Well, as the smallest municipality represented here, I think York Region has done an excellent job representing the region. The governance level has done an excellent job. Right now, currently, we have per member, elected a member, we are represented by 61,000 constituents. And so that's second highest next to Peel. And so I think that we've done an excellent job from that perspective. You know, Aurora itself, we actually reduced 2 seats, you know, this time around. We felt that there was a need to reduce that, the members, just to provide a better efficiency within how we provide our governance for our residents. And I think that that's the type of things that we can look at through this review is how can we find some efficiencies, but putting that in the name of compromising the uniqueness of each municipality, I think is a problem. And I think that we can all agree that we don't want to see that uniqueness of each of the municipalities, you know, basically compromised for in the name and in the sake of efficiency.
Right.
So,
well, let's see how this works, because I suspect when there's 2 levels of government, I'm not sure everybody knows what everybody does. On the one hand, Peel Region has its responsibilities, and on the other hand, Mississauga, the city, has its.
Correct.
What's the difference? Who does what?
So let me say that I don't think 2 levels of government can be as efficient as 1 level of government, and I think there will always be more efficiencies that could be found, savings, and that's sort of in our corporate DNA at the city of Mississauga. And in fact, I told the Premier, we're their poster child on savings and efficiencies and cutting red tape, because we're great at that. We've saved $55 million over the past 10 years. That's what we do. There is duplication, so there has to be cost savings. So when you look at Primarily, it's the planning department. There are 2 planning departments. The municipality of Caledon uses primarily the regional planning department. We have our own, so that's duplication. Sort of legal department is duplicated, comms department is duplicated, certainly engineering, roads, public works. We both sit both levels, both tiers, exercise that. The clerk's office, the chair's office, the CAO.
Okay, what
right?
about policing? Policing is done by the region?
Well, it's shared cost. So the City of Brampton and the City of Mississauga share the costs of Peel Regional Police. At Caledon, they have OPP.
How about fire?
Fire is at the City of Mississauga. We pay for our firefighters. Now, what could change is sort of what could be utility-based, like our electricity is of course, a shared cost. It's a utility. So wastewater, water, that could be utility-based.
Does everybody in Halton understand who does what?
They certainly do. Every time there's a snowstorm, they know which level of government does that, and
Which is it?
That's municipality.
So Burlington gets the plows out.
We get the plows out. When it's your garbage, though, on Monday, so when we have a snowstorm and garbage pickup, that's the region. And so in Halton Region, I think that the services that they provide at that level, and certainly policing would be one, there are efficiencies to be had by grouping municipalities together and spreading those costs over a broader range of municipalities. I think we could start to look at sharing transit service. Those things that don't have municipal boundaries. Planning does, so I think that has to stay at the local level. But transit, affordable housing, water and wastewater, transportation, those things that don't stop at the border, and our residents certainly don't stop at the border, we get efficiencies by working with the region. But I don't want to port everything up to the regional level, because as soon as you do that, you lose connection with your local community.
But doesn't the region do planning? Because our region does planning.
They do some. They do it at a regional level, and you know, it's not at the ground level. They're not looking at our individual applications other than as a commenting agency. So for the most part, other than the natural heritage system, for example, which crosses municipalities, looking at Greenbelt, which we know is, you know, it's protected now, but we have to be vigilant to make sure,
hope to keep it that way.
we will keep it that way. We just passed a unanimous resolution in Burlington that, notwithstanding the fact that you know, Schedule 10 is out of Bill 66 for now, we will.
Schedule 10 out of Bill 66. We're getting in the weeds here. Hang on. We're getting in the weeds.
The Greenbelt's protected for now, but we need to be vigilant.
Do the people in Aurora understand what York Region does for them and what the town of Aurora does for them?
I think sometimes it's a bit confusing for some of the residents, but as mentioned, you know, there's a lot of things that I think from a York Region perspective that we need to look at. One that I've been big on is creating a regional fire service. I think that if you upload that to the region, you will find some efficiencies in that system. But as Marianne had mentioned, you know, planning, absolutely not. That should be at the local level. You know, our region basically just puts out a memo and says that you know, whether they approve with the application or they disagree with it, or you know, they have no comment. And at the end of the day, that's what we get on the local level. But you know, planning should be left to the local level. That's what we fought for so many times. And I don't want to get into the weeds, but through the OMB and through LPAC coming through, that was a big fight for that. And so we deserve that on the local level. But I think when you speak about what do residents understand as far as what's regional, what's local. I mean, I have an issue with the grass all the time. The region comes in, they cut half the grass, and they leave the other half because that's the municipal level.
Come on, seriously?
Yes. And so I'm actually going to have a big fight. I guess a big fight at the regional level, and expect that either the local municipal councils take control of that and cut all the grass, or the region cuts all the grass.
Is there a difference between regional grass and local grass?
Well, I hope there isn't. I mean, it all looks the same to me.
You guys,
The grass
you
is
guys
Does
greener.
the better job of planning. That's the point.
you've opted in for marijuana, so all the grass is the same now, right? Okay. Anyway, you wanted to get in there and say something.
I did, and so growth management and planning at the municipality of Caledon, a lot of that is done at the region. So the difference is that Mississauga's always paid the freight. We've paid 65% of the costs of the region, so we do get involved in the planning decisions that go on at Caledon. Not that we want to, but it's our taxpayers' money, so they should be liberated as well. They'd want to control their own destiny, and in some other format they may be able to. We want all. I mean, we certainly want all that money to be invested in our own priorities, in our own city. We don't think we should pay for the growth of other municipalities, but there are planning decisions that have been made at the Region of Peel that were made because Mississauga taxpayers were paying the freight, and there were more cost efficiencies in the decision that was made versus something that the local municipality may have preferred. But when you have Brampton and Mississauga paying the freight, your taxpayers are footing 65% of the bill in Mississauga, 35% in Brampton, and Caledon is left not able to perhaps proceed with what their local council would like because the efficiencies exist when the servicing and the pipes are at the border, and we want to build sequentially.
Right. Let's look into some scenarios, because of course the City of Toronto, in which we are currently situated, had this discussion many years ago, and I guess about 25 years ago, and Mike Harris decided in his wisdom that 2 levels of government in the city didn't make sense, and he created a single-tiered mega-city, one single council. Mayor Marakis, if Doug Ford went to you and said, you know what, it just doesn't make sense to have all these smaller constituent localities inside bigger York Region, I'm just going to get rid of them all and I'm going to create one brand new city of York. What would you think about that idea?
He'd have a fight on his hands. Big fight.
But would he win?
Well, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, the province has the authority to
What
do
would be
they
so
like.
bad about doing that idea? I mean, they did it in Toronto. What would be so bad about doing it in New York?
I mean, it's as I mentioned earlier, you lose that uniqueness of each community. I mean, Aurora is different from Vaughan, from Markham,
As
from East
Etobicoke
Columbia.
is different from Scarborough.
Oh, and I agree. And so, I mean, and from a planning perspective, you know, what we allow to be built within our borders is absolutely different compared to the other ones. And so now if you amalgamated us and made us one big entity, well, then that would just get thrown out the window, and we would end up with 30-story towers in Aurora, which is, from my point of view, and I think from all the residents in Aurora, is unacceptable.
What if they came to you and said, we're going to create a brand, never mind Oakville, never mind Burlington, never mind Halton Hills, we're going to create a brand new city of Halton. One tier of government.
I'd run to be the mayor of Halton, but no, there's no need for that. We are an efficient level of government as we are, and I think the question that we have to put back to the province is, what problem are you trying to solve? Don't fix what's not broken. We're not broken.
What if they come back to you and say, the problem is, you don't need 2 tiers of government, you only need 1, and you got too many politicians all told?
No, says who? So what's the right number of politicians per constituent? What's the right number of governments? We get efficiencies in the services that we leave at the regional level because they do cross municipal boundaries, but not every service does. You know, do I need to care about a pothole in Milton? No, that can be locally dealt with, you know? So, and they shouldn't have to worry about burnt out streetlights in Burlington. And so there are things at the local level that we can take care of. What we really need from the province, actually, is for them to get out of our way when we're trying to be open for business, when we're trying to have planning and economic development. And I can tell you in Burlington, we have over 500 acres of vacant employment land ready, open for business right now. And we're jammed up because Ministry of Transportation of Ontario permits, which used to take 12 weeks, are now 3 months. We had a development application stalled in Burlington that everyone supported for 2 years because they couldn't get timely Ministry of the Environment approvals on a brownfield site. These are the things, if you want to talk truly about efficiency in government, it's easy to go after us politicians, but the public are not asking for less politicians. Let's listen to what the public's asking for, and let's look at where we can have efficiencies, because at the end of the day, what is the right size of a city, of a single, is it 1 million, is it 3 million, is it 800,000 in
And what's your vision for it to look like?
And what, or is it get rid of all municipalities and Doug Ford runs the province? This is going.
Nobody has suggested that yet. But let's go with Mississauga here.
Absolutely.
Mississauga, Brampton, and Caledon. 3
Distinct,
cities,
yes.
distinct, make up Peel.
Right.
What if you decided to create one big super city of Peel, which would have a population, I guess, of almost
1.5,
Right,
and probably
million
one of
people.
the biggest land masses in the province when
Right.
you take a look at it. But when you look at history, when they amalgamated the city of Toronto, there was a 50% cost increase.
Right.
There were no savings in amalgamation. There were no efficiencies, and there was tons of duplication. So there is no savings in amalgamation, and I think that's the bottom line. We are efficient. Savings, efficiencies are in our corporate DNA. So no, I don't think there are any cost savings in any way if you amalgamate a region. And then you lose the distinctiveness that Tom's been talking about. You lose your control over what your vision for your city would look like.
But you
What do you
get
want
rid
to
of a
build
whole
to
tier
be?
of government.
I'm happy to get rid of a whole tier government. I got a whole other plan to do that.
Well,
So let's let them focus on Mississauga and leave Halton alone.
have you? Okay, as long as we're there.
That's true, that one size doesn't fit all. What might be right for Mississauga, because at the end of the day, we're the third largest city.
Right.
In Ontario, Toronto, Ottawa, Mississauga, and Brampton's not far behind. I think they're fifth or sixth. So what's right for Peel may not be right for York or Durham or Niagara or Halton.
And I was just going to jump in, and Bonnie's correct, because we did have a bit of a discussion on this. I mean, from your York Region perspective, we want our chair to be elected.
Oh no, don't say that.
And I'll just say, and I know that, and I know that, you know, and other regions don't want to see that happen. But from York's perspective, we want that, and so that's why a one-size-fits-all approach is not the right thing to do. But you know, looking at creating some consistencies, I think, within the regions is a welcome thing. But
Elected chair didn't work for us. I
Yes.
did not want a level of government, an elected official who would have a political agenda.
So you were
Who would
happy when
override.
Doug Ford changed the rules 2 months before election day.
I was very pleased.
And
we had
your
a
chair has always been
consultation.
elected. Well, for the last many years.
Actually, the chair before, Joyce Savaline, fought for it to be elected. She felt that was the right choice democratically. That previously it was appointed or you voted as a regional council for who your chair was going to be, and so she put her job on the line. And she ran for that elected position and got it.
Content to have it be that way now.
Absolutely. This is about democracy. This isn't just about efficiency in government. This is about what kind of representation do we want.
So if I like to intervene there, because we certainly see it differently. We feel that our chair is the chair of a board of directors. And their job is not to set the agenda, but to move the agenda along and to make sure, to ensure that all three mayors are heard and that the agendas of the mayors are moved forward. That we didn't want that person to be elected
Like a city manager, kind of.
to come in with their own agenda, political agenda. And that's what this was about. We very much saw that they were chairing the meeting, motion, recognition, passing, with not having a political agenda, political staff, having their own bureaucracy,
And is that what you
having
have
their
now?
own vision.
With,
Correct.
With an appointed chair.
Correct.
You have that now.
Yes, we do. They're
Okay.
chair of a board.
Let's get into this since we're here right now. You're the only person here who wants to take their city out of the region.
Yes.
You want to secede.
I do.
You're the René Lévesque of Ontario right now.
I'm the Hazel McCallion's successor.
Our Ontario includes Mississauga, though.
Yes.
Can you sort of play this through for us right now? Because if Mississauga secedes from Peel, what happens? What's left in Peel?
So I can't speculate what the options are, and there are many, but certainly Hazel McCallion felt very strongly about this 15 years ago. It's very important for Mississauga to control our own destiny, and we were probably 600,000 people or less 15 years ago when she started this campaign, about the size that Brampton is today. So if she thought we could go our own way then, certainly Brampton can today. So we become a standalone city. Brampton could be a
becomes a standalone?
standalone city. Absolutely.
What about Little Caledon?
We cost share, we create utilities for our water, wastewater, et cetera. Caledon, I can't speculate, but there are lots of options for Caledon as well.
So regional government basically disappears, and you become your own standalone city.
We are the
Brampton
third
does.
largest city in Ontario. There are much large, well, there are not larger, but there are smaller, there are large cities and smaller cities that are all single tier. I could go through the list. I don't
Well,
want to leave
Hamilton
anybody.
is smaller and it's single tier.
Well, Hamilton, Guelph, Windsor, London, Barrie, Sudbury, Thunder Bay, the list goes on. And yet Mississauga, two-tier government. And we're bigger than all of them.
So can I just interject?
Please.
Were any of those, I'm just curious, were any of those part of a regional structure beforehand? Did they ever leave from
Hamilton
a regional
was.
structure?
Hamilton was,
Hamilton
yeah.
was.
Hamilton was a bunch of different
That was an
cities.
amalgamation.
That was a super city creation.
Yeah, and that was very controversial.
Okay, so
at the time.
you're different
We
from
are
the
very
others.
different. We're very distinct, and it's because of our size and critical mass. I mean, we're almost 800,000 people.
Right.
I
Now,
have
have you talked to the Premier about this?
91,000 businesses, 73 Fortune 500.
Okay, we get it, Mary. We get it. We get it.
But we want to control our own destiny. We
I
want
get it.
everyone at the table so that we can make decisions that affect our city, and including our finances and our funding.
Have
and
you
our
met with
revenue.
Premier Ford yet?
I have met with Premier Ford.
You
Yes,
said
I
this
have.
to him.
I did.
What
And I
did he-
presented the business case, and I told them that Mississauga could save $30 million a year. The last time we did this study, we saved over $30 million a year if we were a standalone city.
How?
And controlling our own, because of efficiencies and savings, because of the duplications that exist.
I thought that was going to happen in Toronto. That never happened in Toronto.
But it will, because, well, it's a smaller scale, but we won't have two planning departments, two legal departments, two comms departments, two clerks. We won't have a need for a regional chair in their office or the city manager, the regional manager. infrastructure, et cetera. We could make, as I described to you, we'll cost share police. Water, wastewater, sewage is already contracted out. It could be utility based.
What was his reaction to you when you said, unlike everybody else who's having this conversation, we want out?
I can't predetermine, but certainly we spoke in his language, which was this cost savings and efficiencies, and there was lots of nodding. I can't predetermine what the outcome will be.
Did he say forget it?
No, he did not. We presented a solid business case on why this is very possible to move forward in this way.
Do other municipalities around Ontario have a view on what they do?
What should happen with Mississauga?
Yeah.
No.
You know what?
Curious.
Here's my view. I think this government needs to approach this conversation with a handshake, not a hatchet. So don't go around cutting out levels of government where no one's asking for that, where it's working demonstrably, where people are working together, where the right level of service that does go across municipal boundaries is located there. Just one thing alone, with the region bundling our debt, we can go out to market with billions of dollars of debt for our capital infrastructure services, save the taxpayer because we get a better rate when we amalgamate that. But that doesn't mean we should be amalgamating everything else. So we have already looked at what services belong in a collective, what services belong at the local level.
Okay,
And
but if Premier Ford comes to you, Your Worship, and says, the status quo is not an option. We're going to look for some kind of efficiencies here. There's going to be some kind of whatever, reimagining, de-amalgamating, re-amalgamating, something. What would you tell him to do?
I would tell him to look in his own backyard. I would tell him to look at the provincial inefficiencies that we have in planning, for sure, in transportation and environmental services, that we need their help. And I would also look to them to say, we are delivering frontline social services at our regional level, and the province hasn't kept up with your share of funding. We're doing all the work for you. So if we want to truly have a conversation about efficiency and effectiveness in government, I don't accept the scope that it is just about a couple of municipal politicians sitting around a table. No, this has to be bigger than that, or we do a disservice to the community and the conversation. And that will be the message I bring to Ken Seiling and to Michael Fenn, who I'm delighted used to work in Burlington.
That's right, Ken Seiling did,
We're
of course,
hoping to, So, let's have the conversation about efficiency and effectiveness in government, and we'll tell you what we think the opportunities are at our level, which we've essentially already done. But there's opportunities at yours too.
In York Region, if you were to have a conversation with Doug Ford and he were to say, Tom, we love what you're doing in Aurora, but you got too many politicians up there, too many levels of government. We're looking for efficiencies. We're going to have to re-amalgamate something. What would you suggest?
Well, I mean, I'd say you're not going to amalgamate anything in York Region from my perspective, but you can find some efficiencies by reducing some of the representation, and you can
Smaller councils?
Smaller councils, smaller regional council. I think you can do that. You can look at eliminating some, but not amalgamating, because I think amalgamating is, as I said, you lose what makes our communities unique.
How many cities and how many constituent municipalities within York Region?
Well, there's 9. There's 9 municipalities.
Okay. What if the Premier said, 9's too many? We're going to pick 4. You guys amalgamate how you want. Aurora can link up with whatever.
For what purpose? To what
To
end?
what purpose? To what end?
What end?
Fewer councils, more efficient government.
Well, we
But that's
could
not. You
reduce
don't need
the
to do that. You
numbers.
can just reduce the numbers without changing the boundaries. And so I think that's a better way of looking at it. And that's is what I think that regional council from York, as well as myself, will be bringing to the table and having those conversations. I mean, I'm thrilled at the fact that at least that they didn't come in, as Marianne mentioned, they didn't come in with the hatchet. They decided to have proper consultation, and they're going to listen to us. And I hope that they're sincere when they say that they're going to listen to each and every one of us.
And I think they will. And I think my message will be similar to Marianne's in that, for me, it's one size does not fit all. All the regions are
They've
very
said that,
distinct
actually.
and very different. And certainly Mississauga is an anomaly, being the size that we are, being the 3rd largest city, Brampton being, I think they're the 5th or the 6th largest city. So what works for us may not work for Aurora or for Halton Hills or Burlington.
I got some numbers here. Let's put this. Sheldon, you want to put these up? Let's do this. Middle of page 3 here. York Region has 1.2 million people living there and 79 elected politicians between the town and city councils as well as the regional council. Halton apparently has a little more than 500,000 people, 43 elected politicians, so roughly the same ratio as York Region. Peel has a population of 1.4 million, and only 31 elected politicians.
I told you we were efficient.
Well, hang on now. Toronto, your beloved capital city, he said with tongue in cheek, has a population of 2.8 million. But after the reduction of city council from earlier last summer, which everyone will remember,
25.
only 26 elected municipal politicians now.
25 in the mayor.
25 in the mayor. Why so few in Peel relative to everybody else?
Well, we have a good ratio of population by representation by population, other than in Caledon, because there are 5 Caledon members at the region of Peel. So there are actually there are 25 of us at regional council. You get the extra members because in Caledon and in Brampton, there are some councillors that are municipal, and then there are others that are regional. So you combine and you get the extra 6. But at Peel Regional Council, there are only 25 of us. So I think we have good representation by population, other than in Caledon, because it's such a large area. You can't always, the ratios change.
Does it feel like the right number that you have right now?
I have 11 councillors, and myself, the mayor, 12. That feels like the right number. Now, if you look at it from a perspective of federal, provincial ridings, we have 6. Now, I think that is probably about 100,000 residents per representative. Ours is about 60,000 per representative, so it's a little lower.
So the federal and the provincial boundaries mirror each other, basically?
We would have 6.
So you'd have a council of 6?
Correct, but at some point you can't do that because you may have the population, and like, how many would you have? You would have very, very few, based on your population, very few representatives.
Could you do that in Halton?
So Halton and Burlington is unique among Halton because we have a 7-member council. So we're 7 out of the 24. If you look at the 43 that you mentioned, Oakville, Milton, and Halton Hills all have 2 representatives per ward. Our council did away with that in the 90s and said we're going to have 1 councillor who is a city councillor and a regional council. That's it. So we have 6 plus the mayor. And so will those other councils, want to cut the size of their city council to have just 1 representative per ward? They could look at that model. We've done it successfully. But at the regional level, which I think is where the discussion is, we're 24. And that's a good size for 600,000 people growing to, that's planning for growth up to 1 million. So that is very comparable to, to Peel for sure, and some of the other larger municipalities.
So you don't want more members?
We're not looking for more city council members for Burlington. I don't think we need more at the region for sure. And each municipality will have to decide if they want to make changes to their local councils, if they think that's efficient. But the challenge is when you cut politicians, you add administrative staff. So what's the trade-off?
Toronto.
Right. So what's the trade-off for democracy? You have fewer people that are directly accountable to the electorate, replaced by staff who are not. So the argument really is that more elected officials who are responsible that you can toss out every 4 years is a better system of democracy.
Okay.
So
let's get
Steve, sorry, I just want to say those numbers are a bit skewed, and I'll explain why.
Sure.
York Region has 79 due to the fact that we have 9 municipalities.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have a higher number of municipalities, and so that way that number's up. But at the regional level, we only have 20.
Right.
And we have 24.
And as I mentioned earlier, our representation is each member represents 61,000 on average, and so we're number 2 to Peel when it comes to representation.
And does that feel like the right number to you?
I think so. Can we tweak it? Can we maybe lower it? I mean, I've always advocated that Aurora needs 1 more seat, but we've looked at different structures as far as maybe a weighted voting system where you don't need to add any more members, but you add that weighted voting system so you have more votes per
And if
member.
the region would continue, Mississauga felt very strongly that we didn't want to increase the size of Peel Regional Council. If you recall, in the last term, Brampton came forward and wanted additional councillors, and we said, okay, we agree, you could have 2, take them from Caledon, so we don't change the size of Peel Regional Council. They were Caledon being overrepresented. And then they changed their formula and wanted to add 4 and give us 4, and we said, no, that's a non-starter with us. We're not adding 8 councillors.
Yeah.
Let's, in our remaining moments here, I do want to get into some discussion about what you anticipate from the province coming forward. If we were having the same conversation, say 6 months ago, with politicians from the City of Toronto, they would soon be learning that they were about to be cut in half and they were going to have no input into it and they were going to be very unhappy about it and very shocked about it. I want to know, because that's, of course, what the Ford government ended up doing. It brought in a fait accompli. How concerned are you that this panel that is being created to listen to the concerns is actually going to listen to what you have to say, and you're going to be content with what they come up with?
I have a lot of respect for the two individuals that have been put in charge, Ken and Michael Fenn.
They're not the deciders, as
well,
you know.
no, they're not. But they are doing the listening, and they are the ones that are tasked with coming up with recommendations. So I think the best case scenario for probably everybody is listen to those municipalities like Mississauga that are actively asking for changes. Listen to that. Work with those that are, that's the handshake approach, and really don't bother with the other municipalities where there is no problem, because where's the business case that any change is going to save us money? Where is that? That has not materialized. It's just this assumption. So that's not good governance right out of the gate. So leave alone the ones that are not asking for change, and work with the ones that are. That would be the best case, and I hope that message gets through. And then clean up your own backyard.
You did mention that.
Do not go there.
Mayor Tom, how confident are you that this panel will A, listen to you, and B, take recommendations to the Premier that C, you will like at the end of the day?
Well, I think as I mentioned before, just from the fact that they've gone down this road to say that we are going to have some consultation, we are going to work with you, we are going to meet with you. York Region's actually meeting with the Minister's office mid-February. They're coming down to interview each of the mayors and our regional chair, and to have those discussions and say, what is it that you're looking for? And as was mentioned earlier, who best to understand how the regional model works and the local model works than the people that are actually in there doing the job? And that's us. And so, listen to us, listen to what we have to say, listen to our recommendations. We're going to look for efficiencies because we're all looking for those efficiencies. And we'd love to provide a better level of regional governance for our constituents. And so listen to us and we'll get it done.
Last word to the Mayor of Mississauga on
Thank you.
this.
So I am meeting the minister and the advisors, I think next week, in fact.
Minister Steve Clark?
Yes, and the advisors, Fenn and Sealing, next week. And I think the way Mississauga handles things is we just present the best business case. If you're looking for what is your outcome, what is the goal that what are you hoping to achieve, and if it's to find efficiencies and savings, this is how you're going to do it, and this is how we've done it, and this is what I propose. So we will go back and we'll do more consultation, and we'll do those same feasibility studies that we did 15 years ago to prove the level of savings that can be achieved to suit our goal, which is to control our own destiny. But I can't predetermine the outcome. I can't. We don't know what the outcome will be. We don't know. We don't know what their goal is, what their vision is, and what they'd like to see going forward. They haven't indicated. So.
Stay tuned, everybody. This is lightning in a bottle, this whole issue, because when Bill Davis brought in regional governments 45, 46, 47 years ago, he nearly lost the next election. People were unhappy.
Yeah.
And then we had 4.5 decades of people getting used to it, and now here we go again. Marianne Mead Ward is the Mayor of Burlington. Thanks for coming in along the QEW. Bonnie Crombie is the Mayor of Mississauga. How'd you get here today?
I took the train.
You took the train?
I did.
Wow, okay.
Great example of
401.
regional.
Took the 401. Tom Marakis is the Mayor of Aurora. How'd you get here today?
404.
404. All right, there we go. Good to have you all around our table here at TVO.
Thank you.
Thanks for having
a lot.
us, Steve.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.